Hello and welcome to World Talks. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. The White House has confirmed that a long-awaited direct phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin has officially begun. Now, the move follows limited talks in Turkey, the first face-to-face contact between Ukraine and Russia in over 3 years, and a massive Russian drone strike that killed Ukrainian civilians. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Oleksandr Kraiev, North America Program Director at Ukrainian Prism, who has extensive background in Ukraine's parliament and foreign ministry. Oleksandr, welcome to the program. So happy to have you here with us on World Talks.
Yes, hello. Good evening.
So let me ask you this first. I mean, Donald Trump said that no real progress can be made in this potential end to this war without actually him meeting him and Putin together. Now, he is talking to him right now, and he's trying to find, I mean, J.D. Vance said this, he's trying to find on whether or not Putin really wants to have a diplomatic solution to this conflict. Do you think that Trump is going to succeed in finding this out in this phone call that he's having with Putin?
Personally, I have serious doubts about that, and there are several reasons to supplement such doubts. First and foremost, it's only Trumpish to think that you can achieve a strategic goal just by taking your phone and ringing somebody else. It's a very business approach to dealing with such problems, but in case of Russian aggression against Ukraine, its causes and its current state is far more strategic, it's far more complicated just to be decided in one phone call. You cannot even touch upon all of the issues within the range of this peace negotiation during one short phone call. Even if this phone call will take several hours, there is still not much time to discuss everything. So it's not up to Trump just in one phone call to finish everything that Russia started. That's the first reason. The second reason is just basically the general issues of international relations are not decided at the summit level. They are just signed and they are finalized at summit level, but they are decided with negotiating teams. They are decided on multilateral arenas. They are decided within expert communities, meetings, etc. So both sides should attend such negotiation at the highest level only when they have some common understanding, some basic common position, some basic understanding of common terms and conditions. Only after that, such call between two leaders can be successful and can bring some benefit to negotiation. Before that, it's just information politics.
Oleksandr, okay, you're saying information politics, but let me ask you this in your opinion. What do you think that the result of these talks is going to be? I mean, also, Trump is said to speak later on to Zelensky and then with NATO members as well. How do you think that's all going to unfold? What can the result be?
Well, first of all, he spoke with Zelensky for several minutes before this phone call. He consulted basically with Zelensky and European leaders before that, and he will consult them afterwards. That's the only positive trend here, because basically Ukraine and Europe managed to create a negotiation framework when all contacts between Washington and Moscow starts with Kyiv and Brussels and ends with Kyiv and Brussels. So it's basically no direct negotiation with the Russians and trying to set aside Ukraine and Europe. It's only with Ukraine and Europe being a subject matter to the negotiation and being a definite part of the negotiation. So that's a positive side of the issues, and I do believe that the main profitable side for Ukrainians and for Europeans alike. But if we speak about the real result of this negotiation, well, from a rational point of view, Trump should understand after this phone call that Putin is not in a position to start negotiation right now. It's something that American media and American politicians alike were talking about for weeks before this call, that Putin is trying to trick Trump. He's trying to blame Ukrainians on everything and just to entangle Trump into unending phone calls, negotiation, press conferences, etc. So basically, Putin is trying to use Trump to his own benefit. And if we will be living in a dream world, I do believe that's the things that Trump will understand from this phone call. But to speak realistically, I don't think that something prospectures or potential will come out of this phone call. Most importantly, Trump will just stay in the negotiation process. This phone call just will bring us to a situation when America will not exit the negotiations, and that's all.
Let me ask you this. I mean, J.D. Vance was in the Vatican. He was in Italy. What role, if any, does Pope Leo XIV play in trying to resolve this conflict? What can you tell us about that?
Well, as of now, I do see several prospective roles for new Pope. First and foremost, he is a very good negotiator. We do see he pay a lot of attention to Ukraine, to Ukrainian issues, to Americans as well. So he can be one of the negotiators, at least between Kiev and Washington, and Europeans and Washington, basically. He can be a very productive negotiator. He can be very successful on that field. Second, very important part of the Vatican diplomacy, both during the previous papacy and during this new papacy, is of course the humanitarian diplomacy. Let us not forget that because of the previous pope's active diplomacy, several thousands of Ukrainian POWs and civilian hostages held by Russia were exchanged, and they returned to their families, they returned to their homes. So papal diplomacy still bear a lot of advantages. It still bear a lot of importance to international relations, and even to the extent of humanitarian law and international humanitarian activities, it can also be very, very powerful. And the third point is, of course, Vatican can be presented as a neutral ground. It can be presented as a forum where different dimensions and different opinions can be discussed, and Pope Leo can present himself as a moderator, not only a negotiator, but also as a moderator who will keep facilitating and fostering such negotiations. So I do not think that he will be, let's call it, politicized, that he will take sides.
Oleksandr, but what if, Oleksandr, let me ask you this. I mean, you mentioned a lot of interesting factors right there, and that he would play, of course, the mediator or not. But what if Vladimir Putin doesn't believe in diplomacy and wouldn't want to talk? What happens then, even though the Pope would try to kind of give in his, take out his mediator's toolbox and try to resolve this? But what happens then? And can we really, can Ukraine really rely on diplomacy at this stage? Particularly after those Istanbul talks that took place, and then we have a civilian bus that's bombed by Russia.
The main idea of Ukrainian diplomacy is peace through strength or peace through force. And the idea behind that is that if Russia is not ready for diplomacy, or if Russia is manipulating diplomacy for their own accord and for their own interest, well, then we should show force. And basically what Europeans has already done, after the Istanbul meetings, after they saw that Putin is not ready for direct negotiation, for direct and honest diplomacy, after that Europeans imposed the 17 packets of sanctions, and the coalition of the willing provided new arms packages for Ukraine. They provided long-range missiles, they provided anti-air defense, they provided tanks. Just today we heard that Australia have already shipped a new portion of Abrams to Ukraine, Abrams tanks I mean. So they reacted with force, both economic and military. And so an adequate reaction for Russians not being diplomatic and Russian non-willingness to take part in the diplomacy process is to give Ukraine more weapons, to impose more sanctions, and just to pressure Russia to be an adequate international actor and just force them to get to the negotiation table.
Oleksandr, and just very briefly, because we're almost out of time and really under a minute and a few seconds, what does Ukraine now expect from Poland moving forward?
We do expect the partnerships that Poles have already proposed, that Poles have already shown. Of course, we do have some issues, but all the neighbors have issues. But what is very important about Ukrainian and Polish relations is that we can be honest. We can move forward. We have our disagreements, but we have a common enemy. We have common threats, and that is why we are good neighbors, because we can settle our differences.
Thank you so much, Oleksandr Kraiev, North America Program Director at the Ukrainian Prism, for being with us here on World Talks this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.